Hi, I'm Tracy.
And I'm Jessica, and this is She's on Top.
This is a community where we share success stories and business advice from amazing women.
This is our second video with Andrea Bain, the author of the book turned podcast, Single Girl Problems.
If you haven't done so already, check out her first video. We'll put the link below.
In this video, Andrea is sharing her specific tips and advice for creating a successful podcast.
She knows what she's talking about because 3 months after she launched her podcast, Single Girl Problems, it was nominated for a Canadian Podcasting Award.
If you like this content, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe so we can bring you more stories and more tips so you can grow with us.
The idea from the podcast actually came from the media tour that I was on, because I would go to, I'm a chatty Cath, so I would go to these wonderful book events and they would be for an hour, and then 2 hours later I'm still signing books and talking to people and listening to their personal stories, and then it's it was always the same response, man, I wish we had a space where we could just talk like this all the time. Again, light bulb goes off and I'm like, I can create that space. And then I decided, you know what, I'm going to create a podcast where I want to talk to not just single women, I want to talk to people about relationships, and I want to have long form, because in TV, we give 6 minutes to something. You can't really have a conversation about relationships in 6 minutes. You need a place, and I also wanted to have a diverse set of people. I want to talk to divorce, I want to talk to married, I want to talk to trans, I want to talk to gay, I want to talk to everybody, because we're all dating, but we're all having different experiences. Or maybe the person you assume is having a great time, and they're not having a great time, the person who's married. Or I just spoke to somebody who had an arranged marriage, but grew up here and what that's like. And so I created that space. If you want to be an interviewer, you have to be a good listener. You cannot go in with just your questions. You've got to listen, because sometimes a person gives you such a great gem in one question you ask them. And if you're too focused on your little questions, you'll miss an opportunity to unearth some other great story. So a great listener, also somebody who knows a little bit about everything, because you never know, you're gonna meet and talk to people from all different walks of life. And I think it's to your benefit to be a little bit well-traveled, know things about different religions, about sports, about news, about everything. So I wanted to do a podcast mainly because I was having all these great conversations with the people that I met on my book tour. And again, I just sat down and I'm like, I work in television, so I just laid out and I wrote my rundown of how I wanted it to be. I thought about the guests that I wanted to have on. I wanted to talk to a wide range of people. And then I knew I could do it on my own, and I did buy the equipment. And then somebody's like, you know what? Talk to these companies, because they're getting into podcasting. Podcasting is now, if you don't have a podcast, come on, who are you? So then I approached 2 companies, and they were both very keen on the idea. I also think that it helped that I work in media, so I know how to do it. I had the rundown, I had everything ready. I produce, I book, I do everything for my show. So they were keen to do it, and then it came down to who had the best deal, and I went with the company that had the best deal, and they give me creative freedom, and they also trust me, so it's been fantastic. And we just launched, and I was already nominated for an award, and we've only been up for a few months, which is incredible. The company doesn't do anything besides give you a platform. It's all you. Much like writing a book, much like all the things, entrepreneurial things that you go through, no one's holding your hand and giving you money. It's you have to invest in yourself. It doesn't cost you a lot of money, of course, but you have to invest in yourself, do the research, figure it out. Anything that you're interested in, we have the wonderful World Wide Web. So you just sit down and you figure out what you want to do and look at the template of what other people have done. I listened to a couple podcasts. I didn't want to listen to too many because I didn't want to have their influence on what I wanted to do, just for a rundown, and then just kind of go with it. And I also, learning how to negotiate for myself was also something that, as a single woman, I was like, you've got it. There's nobody behind me to kind of step in and do stuff. So I had to learn how to negotiate for myself. So when I approached 2 companies, I thought about, you want to make sure that when you create something, your intellectual property is really important, and you want to make sure that you own things. So that was what was most important to me. I wanted to make sure I had creativity, and that at the end of the day, they couldn't turn around and say, well, we're going to find another host for your Single Girl Problems podcast. Those are the things that were really important to me. So I made sure that I did those things for myself. It is a 50-50 responsibility for getting sponsorship for your podcast. If you go with a company, they have a sales team that is pitching you along with all the other podcasts, or if you're doing it on your own. But it really comes down to numbers. If you're doing it on your own or with a company, it's business. So the more listeners you have, the more people who are interested, and you put together a really great show, the more interest you have, and that's where you get your sponsorship from. What I love about podcasting is that there are no rules and you can do whatever you want, however you'd like it. And I think that comes from, because I've been working in television for so long, and there are rules in television. Your interviews are only this long, you talk to this person, you can't be too broad with things because you don't have the time, because, you know, it's an assembly line. You have, in an hour show, you have like 6 guests maybe, you're doing cooking, you know, you're talking to a musician. And now with a podcast, you get to sit down and you actually get to have a real conversation with people and go there and say what you want and say funny things and have different people, and they don't all have to be experts. They can be just regular people who have really like something interesting to say, and that's been the most fun. If anything, my problem is at the end of my podcast, we don't know when to shut up. Like, it's like, okay, well, my editor cannot like take this 3-hour conversation and bring it down to 40 minutes. But I think I've always been a person who's interested in talking to people and learning about what's going on with them. That's the reason why I got into TV, and the podcast space gives me more freedom to do that. In those in-between times, instead of lamenting and freaking out and calling everybody stressing about your job, why don't you create something? Why don't you do something? And it's also this great time where, again, you don't have to wait for someone to call you to give you a job. You have a phone, you have a piece of paper, you have a computer, you can do and create your own thing. And in my downtime, even though I had a job when I was, you know, when I wrote my book, it was like, use that downtime to create something that is yours.
We hope you enjoyed this video, and make sure to check out Andrea's podcast. We've put the link below.
Also, follow us on Instagram because there we show some behind the scenes footage and some really fun pictures.
See you next time.